Welcome. In this video, we are going to review the DreamBooth paper. That's a very nice paper that was it had a major impact in diffusion models. There are a lot of companies that build SaaS on top of this technology, and they made millions just by just creating a UI on top of this tech. That's really that was really interesting at the time. Basically, you feed a few input images between 3 and 5. Of your dog, of yourself, and then after a few fine-tuning process, you can generate image of the subject in different conditions. So, for example, you can imagine yourself, for example, traveling in Paris, or your dog. But basically, it allows personalization. Today, in 2026, you can do that with any AI tools. For example, you can do that with ChatGPT, but at the time, it was not possible. You either had to leverage, to use the code from this repository, or to use all the SaaS that were built on top of it. Basically, how do they do that? Basically, they leverage the prior embedded in diffusion models. And basically, after that, you can synthesize the subject after a few fine-tuning process in any pose, any lightning, even if those were not present in the input images. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the technique. Basically, from a technical standpoint, it's the paper is neat, very nice work. But in terms of technical contribution, it's not so complex. Here we just have a bit of background on text-to-image diffusion model, on the loss. I believe you are familiar with all of that. If it's not the case, I remind you that I have a course on diffusion model. I will put the link in the description, should you be interested. Here we have the loss for training diffusion models. And now we're going to dive into how they do the fine-tuning. So first, they will need to assign a specific identifier to the subject. So let's say that I'm fine-tuning my diffusion model to this dog. So I really want the model to be hyper-personalized for this dog. So basically, I need to give it an identifier. So basically, here, for example, something like this, a V dog. And then when I prompt my diffusion model, the diffusion model will know that V, the V between brackets represents that dog, okay? And therefore, you need to be careful on which word you use to represent your dog or your subject. For example, you could say, a unique a unique identifier. Let me see if they give examples. Okay, you have identifier and then the class noun. So, for example, dog. But for example, So, for example, for the identifier, you could use, for example, a unique or a special, and you can hope that the diffusion model will be fine-tuned and will understand that when you say unique, it means your specific dog. The issue with that is that with the pre-training, so the diffusion models have been trained. Let's say you fine-tune Stable Diffusion 1.5. Stable Diffusion knows what unique and special means. So if you fine-tune it with those words, it will need to learn to disentangle what it knows from those words, and it needs to to unlearn all those. Okay. So they say they did some tests with that using some existing English words like those. It does not work well. What you can try to do as well is to use some random strings, for example, something like this. But that's why it's important to always know all the details of the tools you work with. So, for example, Stable Diffusion for the text conditioning, they use a pre-trained tokenizer that will tokenize the string into tokens, and then these are the tokens that are seen by the diffusion model. So basically, here if we do that, for example, generate a random string like this, the tokenizer might split each char individually, and therefore, again, you'll have different letters that are combined together. And for the diffusion model, that might have some meaning, okay? Because I'm not sure how they phrase that in the paper. The prior for the diffusion model is strong for these letters. For example, if you see X, X, Y, if it's not all tokenized in a single in a single token. And therefore, yeah, again, the diffusion model needs to unlearn those concepts. So instead, what they do, they find rare tokens that are rarely used in our prompts, in our vocabulary. And basically, they come up with a few tokens. Here, they give, for example, if you use the T5XXL tokenizer, which is vastly used in diffusion models, they give some indices of tokens that works well. And basically, those are, for example, yeah, related to tokens like this, well, to prompts like this, a VDOG or SKS dog. So basically, they find, if we recap what they do, they find rare words or rare tokens that are not used. And therefore, yeah, the model do not need to unlearn anything for those tokens because it did not see it or see them a lot during training. So that's one thing. And another thing is because you fine-tune on only 3 to 5 images, you are prone to overfitting. You will overfit very quickly. So they had a class-specific prior preservation loss. So what that is, it's a regularization where they regularize the model on its own output. So usually we do that for optimizing the fine-tuning process. We do that before training. So before training, we generate a lot of images. So let's say that here our prompt is a VDOG. We really want the model to understand that V stands for this instance, and that when we ask the model to generate a dog, it should be any dog. We don't want the model to assign dog to this instance. We don't want the model to unlearn what is a dog. So what we do, before training, we generate a lot of images using the model itself, so we don't need to use anything else. We already have the model that we fine-tune. We ask the model to generate between 100 and 1K images. And then during training, on one side, we show those images. We say, okay, it's a VDOG, but we also show images of dogs. So we just say, this is a dog. And again, those images are not coming from the internet. They're just generated by the model before fine-tuning. And therefore, the loss, we'll see later how they weight it. There is a hyperparameter, but I think by default, it's the same weight for each loss. So on one side, we have the instance images, on the other side, the class images. Okay, yeah, so here basically we have on one side the loss for the instances, on the other side the loss for the regularization, the class preservation. And I think by default they use a weight of 0.5. Yeah, okay, they use a weight of 1. So basically it's the same weight for each loss. Okay, so yeah, okay. Yeah, that's exactly the end goal of the approach, but they say that the approach preserves pretty well the unique visual features of the subject. So if you use this method to generate a specific if you fine-tune this method with pictures of yourself, and then you generate a new image of yourself in any condition, it will keep all the details that make you unique. Okay, here we have some examples of the impact of the prior preservation loss. Here we can see that without it works well, but so here that's without the loss, but there is some kind of overfitting. You can see that the dog is always in the same pose. The colors are similar to the colors from the input images, but here with the prior preservation loss, we mitigate overfitting, and we can generate the dog in any situation we want, any pose. We can see that here there is always the sofa that is overtrained. Here that's not the case. So I think that's it for this paper. Here maybe our last example. So you have some input images, and then you can recontextualize the subject in any circumstances. And again, there are SaaS that have been made million just by creating a nice UI on top of it. Maybe today it's bad for them because you can just do that very easily with ChatGPT, but at the time it was not possible. But there are still a lot of opportunities like this one. So I hope this video was helpful too. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, even a simple comment, just thank you. It's really helpful for the algorithm, and see you in the next video.